Let me ask you something that might make you uncomfortable. What's truly keeping you in poverty? You're quick to blame the government, aren't you? Your low salary, the economy. But I'll tell you what I've learned from decades of studying wealth and the ancient Jewish wisdom that's created more millionaires than any business school. It's your mindset that's bankrupting you. I'm Caleb Solomon, and what I'm about to share with you isn't just another feel-good financial lecture. This is a wake-up call backed by thousands of years of Jewish wisdom. Wisdom that's helped my people survive and thrive through persecution, exile, and economic turmoil that would have destroyed most other communities. You see, while you're sitting there watching this video, probably surrounded by gadgets you can barely afford, there's a fundamental truth you're avoiding. You're poor by choice. Yes, you heard me correctly. Every day, you're actively choosing poverty through your actions, your habits, and most importantly, your thought patterns. Let me tell you about David, a man who came to me last year. He was making $85,000 annually, not a small sum by any means. Yet he was drowning in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, and couldn't even afford a $500 emergency. He had all the excuses you probably have right now: inflation, high taxes, unexpected expenses. But when I looked at his bank statements, do you know what I found? $200 monthly on coffee shops, $300 on unnecessary subscriptions, and $400 on impulse Amazon purchases. He was choosing poverty, one swipe of his credit card at a time. The wisdom of the Talmud teaches us, who is wealthy? One who is happy with their portion. But let me add something crucial to this. Being happy with your portion doesn't mean accepting mediocrity. It means understanding the difference between necessary expenditure and wasteful indulgence, something you, like David, haven't grasped yet. Our ancestors understood something that modern society has forgotten. In the book of Proverbs, King Solomon, the wealthiest man of his time, wrote, "Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise." The ant doesn't have a commander, overseer, or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. Are you preparing for your future, or are you consuming your harvest as soon as it arrives? I've spent decades studying why some people remain poor while others build lasting wealth. The answer isn't in complex investment strategies or get-rich-quick schemes. It's in the ancient wisdom that sustained the Jewish people through centuries of adversity. This wisdom isn't just about money. It's about understanding the spiritual and practical principles that govern wealth. You might be wondering why I'm being so direct, perhaps even harsh, with you. Because I've seen too many people waste their lives in financial mediocrity, waiting for someone to save them. The Torah teaches us that even when God provided manna in the desert, the people still had to go out and gather it. Divine blessing requires human action. Today, I'm going to share with you the transformative principles that have guided Jewish financial wisdom for generations. These aren't just theoretical concepts. They're practical tools that have created more millionaires per capita in the Jewish community than in any other group. But I warn you, this isn't about quick fixes or easy solutions. If you're looking for someone to coddle you and tell you everything will be okay without any effort on your part, you should stop watching now. What I'm about to share requires something many of you lack: discipline. The kind of discipline that allowed our ancestors to prosper even in the most hostile environments. The kind of discipline that separates the wealthy from the perpetually struggling. Are you ready to confront the uncomfortable truths about your relationship with money? Are you prepared to learn why your current financial situation is a direct result of your choices, not your circumstances? Most importantly, are you willing to apply the ancient wisdom that has created generational wealth for thousands of years? Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how the timeless principles of Jewish financial wisdom can transform your life, but only if you're brave enough to acknowledge your current failures and committed enough to change them. The choice is yours. Continue living in financial mediocrity, or learn the principles that have created prosperity for generations. What's it going to be? Now let me show you exactly why you're trapped in a cycle of poverty. And yes, it's a trap of your own making. When I look at your financial habits, I see the same destructive patterns I've witnessed thousands of times before. You're not unique in your struggles. You're just following a proven path to poverty. Let's start with your most glaring mistake. You're spending money you don't have on things you don't need to impress people you don't even like. I see it in your bank statements, in your credit card bills, in the way you justify every impulsive purchase. That new iPhone in your pocket? You bought it while still paying off the previous one. That designer coffee you're sipping right now? It's probably your third one this week. You're bleeding money through 1,000 small cuts, and then you have the audacity to wonder why you're financially anemic. The Talmud teaches us about the concept of Bal Tashchit, the prohibition against needless waste. But you've turned waste into an art form. Every time you order takeout instead of cooking, every subscription service you barely use, every impulse purchase you justify as self-care, these aren't just expenses, they're symptoms of a deeper spiritual and financial malady. Let me tell you about the 3 deadly financial sins you're committing right now, and why they're keeping you poor. First, you're living in complete denial about your spending. The Talmud says, a person who has a loaf in his basket and says, "What will I eat tomorrow?" is among those of little faith. But you're worse, you have no loaf in your basket, only credit card debt. Yet you're still spending as if wealth magically appears. You're not just lacking faith, you're lacking basic common sense. When was the last time you actually tracked every dollar you spent? Not the vague mental accounting you do, but real, detailed tracking. I can see you squirming already. That discomfort? That's the feeling of truth hitting home. Second, you've convinced yourself that investing is either too risky or something for rich people. This mentality would make our ancestors weep. Jewish tradition has always emphasized the importance of making money work for you. The Torah speaks of Joseph storing grain during the 7 years of plenty to prepare for the 7 years of famine. Yet here you are, in your years of plenty, storing nothing but excuses. You have access to more investment opportunities than any generation before you, but you're paralyzed by fear and ignorance. Meanwhile, inflation is eating away at whatever little money you manage to save. This isn't caution, it's cowardice. Third, and perhaps most damaging, you blame everyone but yourself for your financial situation. The economy, the job market, your boss, your parents who didn't teach you about money. I've heard every excuse. But let me share something powerful from Jewish wisdom. When the ancient Israelites needed water in the desert, Moses didn't just pray, he struck the rock. Action preceded the miracle. You're waiting for a financial miracle while taking no meaningful action. This victim mentality is your poverty guarantee. Every minute you spend blaming external factors is a minute wasted not improving your situation. Here's what the Jewish principles of wealth actually teach us. True prosperity comes from disciplined action, careful planning, and unwavering responsibility for our own situation. The Talmud doesn't just suggest saving, it mandates it. It doesn't merely recommend financial prudence, it demands it. Let me be brutally honest. If you continue living this way, you're not just choosing to fail, you're actively investing in your own poverty. Every time you swipe that credit card for a non-essential purchase, you're buying more time in the prison of financial mediocrity. Every time you postpone starting an investment plan, you're voting for your own future poverty. The Jewish people have survived and thrived through history's worst persecutions and economic hardships, not by accident, but through strict adherence to financial principles that you're currently ignoring. We learn to live below our means, save aggressively, invest wisely, and think generationally. Not just about next month's bills. You know what's truly tragic? You have more financial opportunities than our ancestors could have ever dreamed of. They built wealth under oppression, with limited rights and constant threats to their survival. What's your excuse? But here's the ray of hope. Just as these habits are keeping you poor, different habits can make you wealthy. The same Jewish wisdom that's highlighting your financial sins also provides the roadmap to prosperity. Are you ready to learn what these principles are, and more importantly, are you ready to actually apply them? Because in the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you the exact system that has created financial success for generations. But remember, knowledge without action is like a bird without wings. Are you finally ready to spread your wings? Let me share with you a fundamental principle that has guided Jewish wealth creation for millennia, one that could transform your financial destiny if you have the courage to embrace it. In Hebrew, we call it bitachon, combined with hishtadlut, the divine partnership between faith and action. But before you dismiss this as some abstract religious concept, Let me show you why this principle has created more millionaires than all your get-rich-quick schemes combined. The Talmud teaches us that when God judges us, the first question we're asked isn't about our prayer life or religious observance. No, we're asked, were you honest in your business dealings? Think about that. Financial integrity and wisdom are so crucial that they're literally the first items on the divine audit. Let me tell you about my grandfather, who arrived in America with nothing but a handful of diamonds sewn into his coat after fleeing Europe. Those diamonds represented everything our family had, generations of wealth condensed into a few precious stones. Why diamonds? Because Jewish wisdom taught us to always keep our wealth portable and concentrated. While others accumulated furniture and paintings they couldn't carry, we understood that true wealth must be mobile and defendable. This isn't just a historical lesson, it's a principle you're violating every day. You're spreading your resources thin, chasing every trending investment, every hot stock tip, every cryptocurrency promising overnight riches. But the Talmud teaches us to divide our wealth into thirds, a third in business, a third in land, and a third in liquid assets. This isn't just ancient advice. It's the same principle modern portfolio theory discovered thousands of years later. But here's where you're really failing. You're mistaking wishful thinking for faith and procrastination for patience. The Torah tells us about Joseph interpreting Pharaoh's dream and implementing a 14-year economic plan. He didn't just pray for prosperity during the 7 years of famine. He acted during the 7 years of plenty. Where's your 14-year plan? Oh, that's right. You can barely plan next month's budget. Let me share a story from the Talmud that might finally wake you up. A man once came to Rabbi Hillel and said he wanted to learn the entire Torah while standing on one foot. Hillel replied, "What is hateful to you, do not do to others. The rest is commentary. Now go and study. I'm going to give you the same wisdom about wealth. Don't do to your future self what you would hate someone doing to you today. Every time you waste money, you're stealing from your future self. Every time you fail to invest, you're robbing your future children of their inheritance. You're sitting there, watching this video, perhaps feeling uncomfortable with my directness. Good. That discomfort you're feeling? It's the weight of reality crushing your excuses. The Jewish approach to wealth isn't about feeling good, it's about doing right. Here's the principle in practical terms. Every dollar you earn has a purpose. Every financial decision you make either builds your future or demolishes it. There's no neutral ground. When you buy that $5 coffee without thinking, you're not just spending $5, you're making a statement that you'd rather have temporary pleasure than lasting wealth. The Talmud teaches us about a man who planted a carob tree, which takes 70 years to bear fruit. When asked why he would plant a tree whose fruits he would never eat, he replied, "Just as my ancestors planted for me, I plant for my descendants." This is the mentality that builds generational wealth. But you can't even plant the seeds of your own financial freedom because you're too busy consuming today's fruits. Let me be crystal clear. If you don't start applying this principle of purposeful financial action combined with strategic patience, you'll remain exactly where you are, or worse. How does it feel to know you're actively choosing poverty? How does it feel to realize you're the architect of your own financial prison? You have two choices right now. Continue living in denial, making the same mistakes that keep you financially stunted, or embrace these time-tested principles that have created wealth for generations. You can keep feeling humiliated every time you check your bank balance, or you can start building a legacy that will last centuries. The Jewish people didn't survive and thrive through history's worst persecutions by accident. We had a system, a divine system of wealth creation that combines spiritual wisdom with practical action. This system isn't just about making money, it's about creating lasting value and true financial freedom. But here's the hard truth. This system only works if you work it. It's not enough to nod along and agree with these principles. You need to implement them with the same intensity our ancestors used to rebuild their wealth after every persecution, every exile, every setback. Are you ready to learn the practical steps that will transform these principles into your personal roadmap to wealth? Because what I'm about to share next isn't just advice. It's a battle plan for your financial freedom. The question is, are you finally ready to fight for your prosperity, or will you keep surrendering to mediocrity? Now, let me give you the exact blueprint that will transform these ancient principles into modern wealth. But remember, Knowledge without action is like a Torah scroll left unopened. It holds infinite wisdom, but creates no value until you engage with it. Let's start with immediate actions you need to take. Not tomorrow, not next week, but today. The first step is what we call Cheshbon Hanefesh, an accounting of the soul. But in this case, we're doing an accounting of every single dollar that touches your life. Take out your phone right now. Yes, right now. Open your banking app. I want you to look at the last 10 transactions you made. How many of them were essential for your survival or growth? How many were just feeding your emotional hunger? This isn't just about tracking expenses. It's about confronting your relationship with money. The Talmud teaches us that a person who buys what they don't need will eventually have to sell what they do need. I've seen this play out countless times. Last month, a client came to me crying because she had to sell her late mother's jewelry to cover credit card debt. Debt accumulated buying clothes she never wore and subscriptions she barely used. Here's your practical action plan based on timeless Jewish wisdom. Step 1. The 24-hour rule. Before any purchase over $50, wait 24 hours. The Talmud says, "Who is wise? One who sees the future consequences of their actions." When you're about to buy something, ask yourself, will this matter in a month? In a year? This simple pause has saved my clients hundreds of thousands of dollars. Step 2. The 3/3 system. Remember the Talmudic principle I mentioned earlier? Here's how you modernize it. Take your monthly income after taxes and immediately divide it. First third, essential living expenses, but be ruthless about what's truly essential. Second third, long-term investments, stocks, bonds, real estate. Final third, split between emergency savings and self-improvement. And before you say, "I can't save that much," let me stop you. When the Israelites needed to build the tabernacle in the desert, even the poorest among them contributed. They understood that participating in building something greater than themselves wasn't optional. Step 3. The Maser principle. In Jewish tradition, we practice Maser, giving 1/10 of our income to charity. But here's the modern application. Take 10% of your income and invest it in yourself. Courses, books, skills that will increase your earning potential. The richest people I know all follow this principle. They understand that knowledge, like compound interest, grows exponentially. Step 4. The Shabbat principle. Even if you're not Jewish, adopt this wisdom. Just as we have a day of rest every week, create a monthly money Sabbath. One day each month where you review every financial decision, adjust your strategy, and plan for the future. The Torah teaches us that even God reviewed his work. Are you better than God that you don't need to review yours? Step 5. The Joseph strategy. Remember how Joseph stored grain during the 7 good years? Start building your emergency fund immediately. No excuses. If you can afford that streaming service subscription, you can afford to save. The minimum is 6 months of expenses. Until you have this, consider yourself in a financial emergency. Here's how to start right now. Delete all shopping apps from your phone. Right now, while watching this video, set up automatic transfers for your 3/3 system. Yes, right now, cancel every subscription you haven't used in the last week. Write down every dollar you spend for the next 24 hours. But let me be brutally honest with you. These steps are useless if you don't take them immediately. Not after this video, not tomorrow, not next week, now. The Talmud teaches that procrastination is the thief of opportunity. How many opportunities have you already lost by waiting for the right time? You're probably thinking, this seems extreme. Good. Extreme problems require extreme solutions. Your current financial situation is the result of weak decisions and lazy actions. If you want different results, you need different behaviors. And please, don't insult both of us by saying you'll start when you make more money. I've seen people making 6 figures living paycheck to paycheck, and others building wealth on modest salaries. It's not about how much you make, it's about how you use what you have. The question isn't whether these principles work. Generations of Jewish wealth prove they do. The question is, are you serious enough about your financial future to implement them? Are you ready to stop being a spectator in your financial life and become the CEO of your personal economy? Because what I'm about to share next will show you exactly how these principles have created generational wealth throughout history. But if you haven't started implementing these basic steps, you're not ready for advanced strategies. So, what's it going to be? Are you ready to take control, or will you continue to let money control you? Let me share some powerful stories that will show you exactly how these principles create real wealth. Not just in ancient times, but right now, in today's world. These aren't just stories, they're blueprints for your own transformation. First, let me tell you about Nathan Rothschild, who arrived in England in 1798 with almost nothing. Within just a few decades, he built one of the largest banking empires in history. But here's what most people miss about his story. It wasn't just his business acumen that made him successful. It was his strict adherence to the Jewish principles I've been teaching you. Rothschild followed the principle of selective partnership taught in the Talmud. When others were doing random business deals with anyone who had money, he carefully chose his business relationships based on trust and shared values. He understood the teaching, better a trusted friend in business than uncertain profits. While his competitors chased quick gains, he built lasting relationships that created generational wealth. But let me bring this closer to home. Last year, I mentored Sarah, a single mother working as a teacher making $45,000 a year. When she first came to me, she was drowning in debt and living paycheck to paycheck. But unlike you, she didn't make excuses. She applied these principles with religious dedication. First, she implemented the 3/3 system I taught you earlier. Everyone told her it was impossible to save that much on her salary. But she did what our ancestors did. She got creative. She moved to a smaller apartment, started meal prepping instead of eating out, and turned her hobby of teaching English online into a side business. Within 12 months, she had saved $15,000 and started her first investment portfolio. The Talmud teaches us about Rabbi Akiva, who was a poor shepherd until age 40, then transformed himself into one of our greatest scholars. Sarah did the same thing. She transformed herself from a financial victim into a wealth creator. Today, she's not just surviving, she's building generational wealth for her children. Let me share another modern example. David, a software developer earning 6 figures, came to me last year. Despite his high income, he was broke. Why? Because he violated every principle of Jewish financial wisdom. He lived in the most expensive apartment he could afford, bought a luxury car he didn't need, and spent money like it was infinite. I showed him the story of Joseph in Egypt. Joseph didn't just save during the 7 years of plenty. He created a system for saving and distribution. David implemented the same principle. He downsized his lifestyle, created multiple streams of income through strategic investments, and started living on 30% of his income while investing the rest. The results? In just 18 months, he's built a net worth of over $500,000. Not because he makes more money, he actually took a pay cut to start his own business, but because he finally understood and applied these timeless principles. But perhaps the most powerful example comes from my own family history. My grandfather arrived in America after surviving the Holocaust with nothing but a few diamonds sewn into his coat lining. Why diamonds? Because generations of Jewish wisdom taught us to always keep wealth portable and convertible. While others stored their wealth in properties they couldn't carry or businesses they couldn't move, we understood the principle of liquid, portable assets. Within 5 years of arriving, my grandfather had built a successful import business. Within 10 years, he owned multiple properties, not because he was smarter than others, but because he followed the ancient wisdom I'm sharing with you. He lived well below his means, invested consistently, and never violated the principle of maintaining liquid reserves. Look at the modern tech industry. Take WhatsApp, founded by Jan Koum, who grew up in poverty in Ukraine. He applied these same principles, living frugally even after initial success, focusing on creating real value and maintaining strict financial discipline. The result? A $19 billion acquisition by Facebook. Or consider the story of Ruth, a client who started with just $1,000 in savings 3 years ago. She followed the Jewish principle of half for now, half for later, living on half her income while investing the other half. Today, she has a 6-figure investment portfolio and is on track to retire a millionaire. These aren't just success stories. They're testaments to the power of these principles. Each person faced different circumstances, different challenges, different starting points, but they all followed the same timeless wisdom that I'm sharing with you. The question is, will your story be the next one I tell? Will you be the example that inspires others? Or will you continue to ignore these principles and remain stuck in financial mediocrity? Because what I'm about to share next will show you exactly how to implement these principles in your life, starting today. But remember, all these success stories have one thing in common. They took action immediately. They didn't wait for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, or the perfect amount of money. They started with what they had, where they were. Are you ready to write your own success story, or will you remain just another cautionary tale? Let me leave you with a final truth that will either be the key to your transformation or the epitaph of your financial dreams. Everything I've shared with you today, every principle, every strategy, every piece of ancient wisdom, means absolutely nothing if you're not ready to make a fundamental change in who you are. You see, wealth isn't just about money. The Hebrew word for wealth, osher, shares its root with the word for happiness, osher. This isn't a coincidence. True wealth isn't just about having money. It's about being whole, complete, at peace with your relationship with money. But right now, you're at war with yourself financially. Let's be brutally honest about where you stand right now. You've watched this entire video, nodding along, maybe even taking notes. But in your heart, you're already making excuses. You're thinking, this sounds great, but stop. That but is the voice of poverty. That but is the excuse that's kept you financially stagnant for years. The Talmud teaches us that every person will be held accountable for what they could have achieved, but didn't. Think about that. You're not just responsible for your mistakes. You're responsible for your unused potential. Every day you postpone taking action is another day you'll have to answer for. I've shown you the exact blueprint that has created wealth for generations. The 3/3 system for managing your money, the principle of immediate action and delayed gratification, the wisdom of strategic investing and multiple income streams, the importance of financial education and constant growth. But knowledge without action is like a bird without wings, destined to remain grounded. You have a choice to make right now, not tomorrow, not next week, but right now. Will you be like the wise son in the Passover story, who asks meaningful questions and takes action? Or will you be like the wicked son, who distances himself from wisdom and remains in his self-imposed poverty? The magnificent thing about Jewish financial wisdom is that it doesn't care about your past. It doesn't matter if you're in debt right now. It doesn't matter if you've failed before. What matters is what you do from this moment forward. Our ancestors rebuilt their wealth countless times throughout history, often starting from absolutely nothing. What's your excuse? Your financial transformation begins with a single decision. The decision to stop being a spectator in your financial life and become the architect of your prosperity. Every wealthy person I know made this decision at some point. Every poor person I know is still waiting to make it. Here's what I want you to do right now. First, hit that subscribe button. Not because I need the numbers, but because you need the wisdom. Every week, I share more of these ancient principles and their modern applications. Your financial education isn't a one-time event. It's a lifetime journey. Second, leave a comment below with your biggest financial challenge right now. Be specific. Be honest. This isn't just about engagement. It's about making a public commitment to your transformation. When you write it down, you make it real. Third, share this video with someone who needs this message. The Talmud teaches us that when we help others, we help ourselves. By sharing this wisdom, you're not just helping them. You're reinforcing your own commitment to these principles. Remember, wealth isn't just your right, it's your responsibility. When you're wealthy, you can help others. When you're wealthy, you can support causes you believe in. When you're wealthy, you can create opportunities for others. Your poverty doesn't serve anyone. The choice you make right now will echo through generations. Will your children inherit wisdom and wealth, or will they inherit debt and excuses? Will you be the ancestor others thank for starting a legacy of prosperity, or will you be the cautionary tale they learn from? The principles I've shared with you today have created more wealth than all the get-rich-quick schemes combined. They've survived persecutions, wars, and economic depressions. They've lifted people from poverty to prosperity countless times. The only question is, will you be next? Your journey to wealth begins now. Not when you have more money. Not when the timing is perfect. Now, every moment you wait is a moment you'll never get back. Every excuse you make is another brick in the wall between you and prosperity. The next video you watch on this channel will either be part of your transformation story or just another piece of content you consumed without action. The choice, as always, is yours. Shalom, and may the Almighty bless you with the wisdom to act and the courage to persist.